Trevor Lawrence is set up for nothing but success. I'll tell you why I feel that way on this edition of Locked On Jaguars.
You are Locked On Jaguars, your daily Jacksonville Jaguars podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
It is your team every day. We thank you for making us your first listen here on Locked On Jaguars. I'm Tony Wiggins, the host of the Locked On Jaguars podcast that you can find wherever you get your podcast. Just make sure you tap in. Whether you watch or listen, it does not matter. We will be there giving you the Jaguars information that you want so bad. This episode is brought to you by the Amazon Fire TV Stick 4K. Just turn any TV into your Xbox, man. No console needed. Head to Amazon.com/Fire TV Locked On to learn more. Shout out to the everydayers who join us each and every day, making us your first listen, spending about 30 minutes with us every day. If it's your first chance or your first time catching us, I hope you enjoy it and feel free to come back and join us. All right, here's where we're going to go. We're going to talk about Devin Lloyd not getting that fifth-year option picked up. Doesn't mean his chapter in Jacksonville is over, but it is a hint that his value is a little bit sketchy and questionable when it comes to what he has done and what they think they can extract out of him. We'll talk about that. What to expect from our first subject, which is Trevor Lawrence. We're going to talk about what can we expect, maybe statistically, stylistically, and all of that stuff with Trevor Lawrence this year. But that's where we're going to start. We're going to start at the very top. I think he should thrive in 25, and I would be highly disappointed if he doesn't. So let's park it right there and start examining all of this stuff. Trevor Lawrence came into the National Football League in the 2021 draft to all of the fanfare, probably as big of a fanfare for a quarterback as you're going to see, at least in the era of social media. And maybe even the expectations prior to that were super, super high, higher than I can recall for Cam Newton, higher than I can recall for Jameis Winston, about on par with what we saw with Andrew Luck, but maybe not anybody else since that. I mean, can't miss all over the place, right? It's not rocket science or some breaking news for me to tell you that it hasn't gone quite that way his first 4 years in the league, and this will be his fifth year. Be playing under the fifth-year option this season. Yeah, it hasn't really gone like that, but he did sign an extension for $250 million or something like that, with like the 140 some odd guaranteed. That kicks in next year, even though I think he's already gotten some of the cash. And people also can tell you in the same breath that they tell you that it didn't start. These first 4 years haven't gone the way the script was supposed to be written. They'll also tell you that most of them will at least say Trevor probably deserved that extension he got. And that's where we are. We are at the point where it almost feels like Trevor Lawrence is not even playing and competing in order to be judged like a regular person should. He's being judged by the expectations of a lot of people that said a lot of things, for whether it was what they believed or clickbait or jumping on the hyperbole train and all of that stuff. I'm smart enough to know that he hasn't been as bad as people who, like LaShawn McCoy, that wants to say he's terrible, and Richard Sherman that says he's terrible. Trevor hasn't been that bad. And it's to the point now where when he does have an off game and a bad game, the same games that Jalen Hurts and Patrick Mahomes and all of these other dudes making, Josh Allen occasionally, Joe Burrow. But when Trevor does it, because he hasn't had the success that a lot of those dudes have had, he gets really, really beat up for it. I get messages. I got one last year from Richard Sherman saying what I told you, Wade. But the point of it is, he's now being judged. It's like people are sitting around waiting for him to screw up. As soon as they do, they go, got you. He did it again, right? Or they're waiting for him to get hurt. And there are other people on the other side of it. Every single time he makes a throw that looks like one of those throws that only 7 or 8 people can make, they just keep posting that saying, this is what it is, this is what it is. So for me, it's not about the variance of the great plays versus the bad ones, because people are going to be polarizing enough that those guys that's going to hang on that and stay right there and wait for something ugly to happen to say, see, this is what I was telling you. I can't change their mind, nor can I change the mind of the people that want to pretend that he actually has played well and The only reason that he hasn't looked like the superstar that everyone expected is because, well, he had a bad coaching staff and a bad scheme and bad players around him, which is true, but that is not solely the reason that he has not looked the way people expected him to look. Do I have the answer as to why he hasn't? No, but we're going to try to get pretty close and tell you how we can reduce some things to try to make Trevor. The bottom line is I am not in the business of trying to change people's minds. The business that I'm in right now is I want Trevor Lawrence to be a healthy, complete quarterback that gives the Jacksonville Jaguars each and every week the best chance to win and a better chance than the opponent they're playing against. How can that happen? Well, first and foremost, they got rid of some management people. Trent Baalke, Ethan Waugh is not retained either. He was hanging around for a while now. We thought Ethan Waugh might be a part of this new regime. That is not going to happen. He will not continue. But I think they were really gracious in him staying around and sticking through this process. I think they're going to get rid of a lot of scouts too, because that's usually what they do. When the GM comes in, he doesn't run everybody out of the building because he won't have time to hire everybody before the draft. He uses the guys that are there because they're on staff. They've been doing the work all year before the draft. And what happens is when those guys get a chance to finally show what they can do, some of them may be retained and some of them are not. But it's really a clean slate here in Jacksonville. So I think, one, that's going to help Trevor Lawrence. Two, they have people that absolutely believe that him being weaponized and protected, like you don't have to do those things one at a time. Case in point, they signed De'Ami Brown to add to Brian Thomas, and then they draft a freakazoid in Travis Hunter. So now they have 3 wide receivers that are fast, that are young, that they're going to make a point, an emphasis to try to get the ball. They add 2 really, really good, complete tight ends to go along with Brenton Strange, right? And then they add 4 offensive linemen in free agency and draft another one on day 2. This is really walking and chewing bubble gum at the same time. In the past, you were used to Jacksonville addressing issues like they have to address them one at a time. And then, even then, they used to identify the issues that was wrong with the team, but they would not address those issues. It's really, really weird, but y'all know what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the fact that this team ain't big and physical, and this team's offensive line is what it is. I want to pose this question for you before I tell you what I expect in segment 2, because we have to kind of look back a little bit to understand where it is we're going, even though we're going somewhere with a whole new driver, with a whole new roadmap, and a whole new vehicle. Think about this. James Gladstone has added speed on offense and defense, on the flank on offense and in the deep secondary on the back end of the defense. The 2 areas that literally cover the most space. Nobody runs on offense more than a wide receiver. Even if he doesn't get the ball, he might run 40 yards down the field, especially on scramble routes. Dude might run 100 yards, and then he'll come jog back to the huddle, and he'll go run again. And then the DBs, they do more running because they cover a whole bunch of ground on defense. They're not in short areas. They added speed, and they did it in 1 off season. Simultaneously, they added 5 new offensive linemen to this team. Took Trent Baalke 4 years to figure out how to get speed, and he still never did, and then how to get more big and physical on the offensive line, and he still never did that. This goes to show you that there's a new way of thinking in town, and we don't have to sit here and be overly patient waiting for things to happen as people had told us in the past we had to. They fixed these things, and they address these things like right now. And they expect them to be fixed. We'll talk about that, and we'll talk about what to expect from the Jaguars in just a second here on Locked On Jaguars. Today's show is sponsored and brought to you by Amazon Fire TV. Oh my God, man. Did you know your Fire TV is also an Xbox? Turn on any TV into your gaming and entertainment hub with Fire TV Stick 4K devices. No console required. Just grab your paired controller, subscribe or sign in to Xbox Game Pass Ultimate with EA Play it's included, and you're ready to go. Dive into hundreds of premium titles, including EA Sports College Football 25, to Call of Duty, and easily as easily as you can stream your favorite shows. What if you could jump into your favorite Xbox titles without needing your console in every room? Woo! That would make a lot of people's day super, super happy. Head to Amazon.com/FireTV Locked On to get started. Xbox Game Pass, Ultimate subscription, and compatible controller required. Available on select devices, including Fire TV Stick 4K second generation, Fire TV 4K Max first and second generation, and Fire TV Cube third generation. All right, rolling along here, Locked On Jaguars, where's your team every day. We thank you for making us your first listen here on a Friday. Got my email for my credentials, man. I'm so happy because the rookie minicamp. That's right, rookie minicamp is on the way next week. Get to see Travis Hunter running around in a Jaguar uniform. That is a really, really exciting thing, man, and I cannot wait. I'm going on vacation the week after that, so I'm really, really glad that this schedule is working out this way, so I at least get a chance to go in and see our new player. That's right, Travis Hunter, the new sensation here with Jacksonville. In fact, let me go ahead and go over that schedule with you. I'm going to look at this schedule real quick, the Jaguars minicamp schedule, and I'm going to go ahead and run it down for you really, really fast. Okay, so Saturday, May 10th, rookie minicamp. We'll talk to Liam Cohen at noon, and then practice is open for about an hour and 15 minutes after that. And then Monday, the 19th, now this is when I'll be gone. I think I'll be gone. No, I won't be gone yet. I'll still be here Monday, May 19th for that practice. Same thing. And then the one Tuesday, May 27th, I'll actually just be coming back. So I should be able to make all of these. That's right. I should be able to make all of these things to go. And, you know, of course, that makes good content. That makes good podcasts. And I'll make sure I keep you guys abreast of everything that's going on and what I see. Rookie minicamp, it was always fun because it's the first thing you get, right, when the new season starts. And you also get to see the new shiny pieces that they got. But this is those shiniest piece that they've had in a long time. Maybe as much anticipation as seeing him as you did Trevor Lawrence. Because I really, really want to see. And if we haven't seen it, you know, we get so used to these dudes, man, and you don't know what it's like when you see that guy. I remember when I saw Trevor on that field, I said he looked like Secretariat compared to the other ones. His hair flowing. And you ever, the Kentucky Derbies this weekend, y'all ever watch that when those horses come out? Those are the best 3-year-olds in the world. And they know it. You watch those horses when they strut, man, and how they carry it, dog. They feel for that moment. And that's the way when I go out to football practice, I can see the thoroughbreds. I can see the difference in the players when they first come in here. I saw it with Jalen. We looked at him and we were standing on the sideline and we were like, damn, that's a big corner. They have a lot more guys out there his size now, but back then they weren't really drafting dudes 6'1.5", 200 and some odd pounds with those big wide shoulders like that. We were like, geez, it just looks different. When we saw Trevor, we were like, it just looks different. And last year when we saw Brian Thomas Jr., we said it looks different. So you can always know and tell and feel the difference in these dudes even before the games are being played. I expect this camp to be very, very enthusiastic. I wouldn't be shocked if you saw some veterans while maybe not working out there. I don't know if that'll actually occur, but I wouldn't be shocked because there's a lot of enthusiasm around this team. I think players can't wait to get going. They can't wait to get going. They can't wait. The new guys and the incumbents, they can't wait to be a part of. Now watch this. This is going to sound like I'm talking about the fans. They can't wait to be a part of competency. Like playing in an offense where you expect to move the ball down the field as opposed to playing in one where you're hoping and wishing you can move the ball down the field. And if we put it together, we'll get it right. No, I think when you watch the Rams, they punt just like everybody else. When you watch the Eagles and the Chiefs, they punt like everybody else. But for the most part, you really expect them to be really, really fluid on offense. Like even with Minnesota last year. Think about that last game of the season when Minnesota played Detroit. Didn't go real well, right? But they executed perfectly. Everything went well. Sam Darnold just kept overthrowing the ball. Remember all of those almost plays he made, but then it was just like he needs to calm down. And then they ended up getting the socks blown off. But prior to that, you saw the functionality of the offense. You just saw a dude that was in over his head a little bit with emotion. So at the very least, by design, how many times have you seen the Jaguars by design that plays burnt in the past 3 years? You know you've seen it because I've seen it. I sat in the press box with former NFL head coaches, and we sit there and look at each other like we knew that wasn't going to work from the start. And the reason why is the main reason, and I'm going to tell you right now, the main reason is there's a few of them. One of them, that whole Doug and press and that whole thing and them being under pressure to perform because they were dumb enough to come out here and tell people, well, yeah, we're going to switch it up a little bit this year and start. And it took on a life of its own with the play calling. And I told people who would listen that people who were with Doug in Philly said Doug did the same exact thing between years 1 and 2 and 3 that he did in Philadelphia. Nothing actually changed. He just made it sound like it did. Press Taylor called plays his first year here. And bad plays, bad communication, kind of snobby acting coaches. We didn't recognize that. We didn't see it, but we knew something was wrong. There was a reason things weren't resonating, right? Well, whatever it is that you can't identify, you don't know a name for it, I'm going to tell you right now, that will not happen with this regime. You can tell. Communication is different. They explain things easier, but they still give you the feeling that it's all about responsibility and accountability to your team. So coming out of the locker room, before you even look at how physical they are, before you even look at their speed and their talent and their playmakers, preparation-wise, I think this is going to be a complete 180, and I believe the confidence in the plays that are going to be called, the players are going to believe in it. I think there's so much optimism where there's going to be an expectation that they're not just going to – we used to watch Jaguar games and sit there and hope they were on that day. Be like, okay, they're on. They're on their money today. And we've had some games like that. The Jaguars have played some games where you saw it. And a lot of them seem to come against Houston and the Colts. That's when they usually seem like they're on their money. They actually played tough last year also against teams like Green Bay that you didn't expect them to be in those games, but they were. But then they come out and play the Bears or somebody like that, and it'd be a total clunker. And then they'd lose to the Titans or somebody, and you're like, this ain't where it's at. So that variance, I want that to go away. One thing would be the preparation. The second thing would be the improvement of the offensive line. You just can't get away from not being physical when you're in the National Football League. There have been teams that have had some success, but eventually the lack of physicality is going to catch up with you. I have not seen a team to win the Super Bowl that can't block people. I've seen teams that go to the Super Bowl and then they get to the Super Bowl and their inability to block people cost them the game. But I ain't never seen a team that had a really, really good offensive line or really, really poor offensive line actually win the championship. So the Jaguars made some steps to improve that with 5 people with confidence. I think 2, maybe 3 of them end up starting. And I'm a firm believer in what happens up front really, really does help the entire team, especially on offense. Look, even if you play defense and the offense continues to get first downs, you don't have to go back on the field. Not that you don't want to, but you can go back out there fresh. And then when you go out there fresh, if you're playing against a team that has to put up points because your offense keeps putting up points, here's where that makes you very, very dangerous. Because now their desperation is playing right into your hands. You got good pass rushers and you got good active people on the back end in the secondary. I'm telling you, man, this thing is set up for Trevor Lawrence to thrive in 2025, mainly because the pressure will not be all on him. It'll be on them depending on the system. It'll be complementary from offense to defense. The brain trust will have a better idea of exactly where they want to go and how they want to play, as opposed to coming out here and let's just see what works. Because when you're coming out to see what works, it never works. Devin Lloyd didn't get his 5th-year option. Speaking of the defense, I understood it. I didn't expect him to get a 5th-year option. We'll talk about the ramifications of that for him and for the Jaguars in just a second on Locked On Jaguars. Hey, man, it's Tony Wiggins here with Locked On Jaguars, running it down here in the third and final segment on a Friday, a Good Friday, 1 week after the draft ended, a draft that saw the Jaguars get Travis Hunter. Yeah, they got other players too, but we got to give Travis Hunter the kind of attention that Travis Hunter deserves to get because he's just that great of a player. And you can sit here all day long and do podcasts and pretend that everything's all even, but it kind of isn't. You know, Travis is expected to do a lot for this team. Linebacker Devin Lloyd. How can him not getting his fifth-year option picked up? How can that benefit him as a player? How can it benefit the Jacksonville Jaguars? Contract year, you're going to get a lights-out effort. You should. Anyway, not getting that fifth-year option picked up is like, show me. Because as of right now, the value isn't there. Like, it was the same thing with Christian Kirk. The difference is Lloyd is still playing under the rookie deal. The fifth-year option would have caused him to get a little bump up. I think Trayvon's fifth-year option number is like $15 million, right? So you would have to bump Devin Lloyd up to a certain place. And quite frankly, I think this is a show-me year. If he goes out and starts playing lights out, they'll re-sign him during the season. Trent used to do that foolishness where he wouldn't renegotiate contracts during the year. And then he did one last year with offensive tackle Walker Little and shocked everybody, right? And I do believe Devin Lloyd has an opportunity. I think the Jaguars are going to get their absolute best from him. And the reason why is because Anthony Campanile, linebacker coach by trade, is now the defensive coordinator. He's going to speak his language, man. He's going to know exactly the position he needs to be put in. He's going to tell him exactly what needs to happen. And Devin Lloyd is motivated because it's a contract year, and I think the Jaguars could really, really benefit from it. I think he's going to have a good offseason, come into camp, be ready to go. Now, here's something tricky. Barring injury, if he's having a really, really good camp, but the Jaguars still feel like from a positional value standpoint and money-wise, it's not going to work out for them. Here's where it could get super, super interesting. And they say, well, we can keep him for the production, but what if Chad Muma and Ventrell Miller and now Jack Kaiser are all playing well, and we see light at the end of the tunnel where we could get some compensation? They don't have a first-round pick next year. They ain't getting one for Devin Lloyd either, but they could get another third or fourth to go along with their smorgasbord of picks that will allow them to have even more flexibility in the 2026 draft without them losing any possible upside to production or having Devin Lloyd gives you as a Jaguar. So I think he's going to get paid. I think he's going to make money. I think Devin Lloyd's going to play in the league for another 6-7 years and be a 10, 11-year player. Will he ever be a superstar? I doubt that very seriously. But I would always point to careers of guys like Kyle Van Noy, who was drafted by Detroit when they ran a base 4-3. And he didn't seem like he was a good fit because he was a Sam linebacker who probably should have been in a 3-4. Then he goes into a 3-4 and he becomes this valuable player for a number of years for a lot of really, really good teams. And now he was in Baltimore just last year, and he was still a very, very good player. So the story isn't completely written for Devin Lloyd. It might be completely written for Devin Lloyd in Jacksonville, and it might not have anything to do with him or what he does this season on the field. It just might have something to do with, look, man, we ain't going to pay a linebacker all of that money that you may want, especially if he does have a good season. If he has a good season, Devin Lloyd might want $12, $13, $14 million a year. They'd be crazy to give that to a linebacker, especially at this stage. Depending on what happens with the season, I just wouldn't do it. I think success, I'm not writing him off. Success can still be had by Devin Lloyd, but when they don't pick up your fifth-year option, that means they don't place the value on you that was scheduled for you as a first-round pick, right? I think there are a handful of dudes, maybe half of the first round aren't getting their fifth-year options picked up. So it'll be interesting to see what they do and paying attention to the ebb and the flow at the linebacker position. But this is all about the quarterback on defense, not the linebacker, not the captain, not the quarterback on defense. This is about the quarterback on offense, rather, and that's Trevor Lawrence, who's also the coach of the team. Big year for Trevor. Now, all transparency. If Trevor struggles this year or continues to show the inconsistency that he has shown, Then I'll pay more attention to Richard Sherman. I probably won't pay no attention to Shady McCoy, but I'll listen to anybody that says, wait, now come on now. It's going to come down to this. It's not going to come down to eventually we're going to get to the point where we're not trying to make him live up to the prince that was promised, Nick Wright and all of that foolishness. We're also not going to overly pay attention to the people that are sitting. It seems like they're sitting at the bus stop called Bust, and they can't wait to put his picture up there on a pole and say this is where he needs to be. It's just going to come down to me is, will I ever get to the point that I think, okay, let me rephrase that. If you ask me, do I think Trevor Lawrence is capable of taking a team to the Super Bowl? I would say yes. There's things that have to improve. There's things that have to change. There's things that have to become more consistent. But yeah, I do believe that. There are some quarterbacks I do not believe that about. I don't think Detroit is ever going to win the Super Bowl with Jared Goff as their quarterback, because they have to make their team even more better. Is that a word? But they would almost have to have a perfect team around that kid in order to win it. That's why they can't get out of the playoffs. That's not going to get any better for them. I don't think Detroit is done by any stretch of the imagination. But once you start losing coaches and all of that, and you ain't even got to where you were trying to get to, that's something that you have to monitor. The 49ers suffer from that same thing. I don't think they're ever going to win a championship with that coach as their because one, they lose talent in the coaching department in San Francisco. They lose that talent as if they have been winning Super Bowls. Over the last 8 years, they've missed the playoff half the time, right? So I believe that Trevor Lawrence is capable. The question is he going to be able to do that here with Liam Cohen? That's yet to be determined. But so far, so good. I like the innovative approach. I like the difference in how they're going about it. It feels like everybody over there is working there. You know what's off. Add all of those things together. The fact that they've weaponized the team, they've gotten speed all over the place. The fact that they've got bulkier on the offensive line, and they are going to be really, really dedicated to running the football, gives me a reason to believe that Trevor Lawrence, all he has to do, man, is just harness all of that talent. Just be very judicious when he tries to let that big arm go. But for the most part, he's going to have a chance to make a bunch of routine throws that a bunch of wide receivers and running backs and tight ends turn into big games. Into big games. And that means they're going to win a lot more games. All right, man. Happy weekend to you here. I'm glad we finally reached the month of May. That means we're closer to training camp. If you want to know all about the rosters of all the teams around the National Football League, there's nothing better for you to do than to tap in to Locked On NFL Scouting. Kyle Krabs and my man Joe Marino, man, all of the roster moves and all of that stuff, they will make you the most informed NFL fan this offseason. Find Locked On NFL Scouting on YouTube or wherever you get or listen to your podcast. You guys take care. Have a great weekend. We appreciate you spending 28 minutes with us here today on Locked On Jaguars. Make sure you come back again and make us your first listen. Thank you.